All right, one of the things that I forgot to put in the last lecture, I made the video, but for some reason it just doesn't seem to be there when I went to go put it all together at home, is how to use a T-handle gauge. Okay, so this is what a T-handle gauge looks like. Okay, and basically all it is a spring-loaded measuring device. Okay, so when we release the spring on it, it comes out super wide like so, and when we press it in, it will come right back out. But if we press it in and then turn the little locking ring on it, then it stays in. Okay, and one of the cool things is when it's out and then you tighten it down, if you press in on it, you can push it in, but wherever you stop pushing in, it stays. Okay, so how does this come into use on a cylinder? Okay, so what we can do is, the proper way to do this is to press the T-gauge in and lock it so that it stays in. Now you don't want to put it, and I'm going to do it even though you shouldn't because this is an old block and we don't care. What you don't want to do is press it in, put it in the middle of the cylinder, and then click. You hear that click, it's like it's slamming. Let me put the microphone down here and see if we can hear it a little better. Okay, so that click is not good. Okay, two things happen. It can damage the T-handle, and number two is the plungers on here can actually damage the inside of the cylinder too. It can scratch it up, mar it up, and if you had a nice brand new honed cylinder, you could sit there and you could ding it up. You can also ding up the ends of the T-handle itself. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to press it in, and we want to kind of put it towards the outside edge of the circle and unlock it. And I'm going to try and do this without it going all the way down. Okay, and then move it towards the center. Okay, that way you don't get any click, you don't get any slamming inside of there. Okay, now what we want to do is we actually want to take this and we want to tilt it just below where we want to measure. Okay, that will extend those that will extend the end of the T-handles, okay, as you can see, and you can see it's tilted. All right, and what we want to do at that point is then go ahead and lock the T-handle down, okay, with it at that tilted point. And then what we're going to do is, as close to a 90-degree angle as we can, heading towards the highest edge, we're going to rock the handle until we get up to straight in the cylinder. Now the nice thing is those plungers are going to stay exactly where they are at the tightest gap there, okay? Which means when we continue past, we actually release, and then we'll release the T-handle and it stays at that tightest tolerance. Now we just have to go and take it over to the micrometer and measure it. Okay, so I came out here to measure the T-handle, and I wanted to point something out in case you forgot about micrometers a little bit. This is called a standard. Okay, this is a 4-inch standard because we know from our dial bore gauge measurements that we're measuring just over 4 inches. Okay, so I came out here, and first thing I did was got to where I could see the 0 mark and put it on 0, and went to go put the standard in there, and it's really far off. In fact, it's so far off that I have to turn it around once past 0 basically to get myself to hold that 4-inch and get it to spin. Okay, so it is zeroed out and right on the 4-inch mark to where it's got just that little bit of play, just that little bit of squeeze, that finesse. Okay, but we're still a whole revolution away from the 0 mark on the gauge here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to readjust this. It has a screw on the end here, so I'm going to take that screw out, readjust this, and then put it back together. All right, so now I've got it reset on a 4-inch standard. Okay, even using the little torque knob here, if I go down and I twist the torque knob and I get it to where it spins, we're just off from 0, but to me that's a little too light just off of my own personal feel. It's about, I don't know, half a thou off for my own personal feel. So I'm gonna get it down there, use the torque knob. And it's about a half a thou off. And if I put it to where I like the drag on there, we're right at 4 inches, okay? And you can see that it still drags around in there a little bit. And that's the drag, that's the feel that I have, just my calibrated feel over the years. Okay, so now we've got it set, standard, set to a 4-inch standard. And you notice, hey, look, this doesn't go in there, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and back it off. We think this should be somewhere around 4 inches and 3 thousandths, somewhere around there, 4 inches and 4 thousandths. So we back it off, we're gonna go ahead and run it in. And just like anything else when we're measuring, we're gonna go right to the center as best we can and get it to hold. You don't wanna press too much, because if you press too much, and I'll show you here in a second, it'll press those in. But I do wanna go just, I'm gonna use the torque knob on the outside of this. I'm gonna go to just, oh, it's pushing it in. See, I already went and did it myself. It pushed it in past 4 inches. So we'll go back to 4 inches real quick. I'm gonna go remeasure this real quick, and then we'll come and I'll make sure that I get this knob turned down extra tight. You can see it was a little loose. Should have that a little tighter. So you gotta make sure that the tightening knob on the T-handle is tightened. So I'm gonna go remeasure real quick, and I'll come back and we'll do this one more time. All right, so I've remeasured, and this time we're gonna make sure the T-handle is down tight so it doesn't wanna move. Back this off a little bit, come on down to about the 4-inch mark. See, we got the spinning there, okay? And I got about the right tightness that I like there, a little bit tighter. That's where it's at. And we go ahead and we take a look at the measurement, and we can see that it is at about 2 thousandths. So we're at 4 inches and 2 thousandths, or 4.002 inches, which is about what we got with the dial bore gauge. All right, so we went ahead and measured right here at the top of our cylinder, and one of the things that I didn't mention is when you use these, they are less accurate, okay? You can get pretty accurate with them. However, if you're gonna use these, you would wanna do each of these measurements 3 times, and then average the measurements between them. And remember, we have to measure at the top of the cylinder, the middle of the cylinder, and then the bottom of the cylinder. So instead of with your dial bore gauge doing 1, 2, 3 measurements on the way down, you're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then remember, we gotta turn it 90 degrees and do the same thing, okay? You could do 1 measurement on each, but again, these are just a little less accurate. When you get really good with them, you can get pretty close to accurate, but really setting your dial bore gauge is gonna be your fastest, easiest, and most reliable. Now our T gauges come in sets, and they come with a lot of different sizes. There are also some other different types of T gauges, telescoping gauges. Some of them look a little more like this, okay, where they only one side really extends, and then the other comes out of that side. That's just a different style. Other styles are have a ball gauge on the end and extend, and you're going to see how to use those coming up on how to measure valve guide clearances, which we're going to do in the same basic principle. You spread it out inside the bore just like you would inside of the cylinder here, and then you take it out and you measure it on the outside, and you'll see a demonstration from another instructor from Weaver State on how to do that.